Berlin, capital of Germany, and a city that knows how to mix business and culture with a dash of fun. Home to more than 3.5 million people, Berlin is also one of the most visited cities in the world, teeming with the energy of more than 750 years of innovation and creativity. Using the lessons of that long history, Berlin is shaping a vision of the future, featuring renewable energy, conservation, and pollution-free mobility. Transportation played a key role in Berlin as a divided city in the years following World War II, when the western sector was isolated, and thousands of Allied aircraft landed at Tempelhof Airport, sustaining the city via the Berlin airlift. Today, motorsport is at the forefront as Berlin welcomes the all-electric Formula E Championship back to Tempelhof. Leading the way is reigning series champ Sebastian Buemi, pressed by Lucas di Grassi, Nico Prost, Jean-Eric Vergne, and home favorite Nick Heidfeld. The championship stretch run begins today. One of the largest structures ever built by man, Flughafen Berlin-Tempelhof, no longer a functioning airport, but for the second time in 3 years, host to a round of the world's premier all-electric single-seater series. Welcome to FIA Formula E, the Berlin ePrix. Hello everybody, I'm Bob Varsha alongside veteran commentator Martin Haven. Dario Franchitti and Nikki Shields are down in the pit lane and will be along shortly. We begin our coverage of this doubleheader race weekend, the first of those this season, with the Shakedown, a Friday afternoon cruise basically, but Martin, the teams will all have an agenda.
Well, one of the agendas, Bob, is that although we've raced in Tempelhof before, we've never raced on this track format. So the track has been moved out from underneath that enormous structure and onto the concrete standing where the planes would have been waiting for their passengers. So a brand new track, and that means the Shakedown is going to be doubly important. They've walked around, but actually they don't know what the track is going to be like in a race car. So that is why they have this brief session this afternoon. And then the other fact, of course, as you said, not 1-2 race weekend this year, but the remaining season is all double headers.
That's right. Our first 6 races of the season took place at 6 different locations around the world. The final 6 will happen on just 3 double race weekends. Now here's a look at the Drivers' Championship coming in. 43 points now separate reigning series champion Sebastian Buemi from his nearest rival, Lucas di Grassi, who will be desperate to try to close that gap as we get into this second half of the season. There you see the rest of the runners down to 20th place. We've had a bit of a shuffle up and down the pit lane. Esteban Gutierrez, the young Mexican who raced a couple of events with the Techeetah team, will not be racing the rest of this season. Stefan Sarrazin moves over from the Venturi team to take his place at Techeetah. And Tom Dillman, the Frenchman, moves into Sarrazin's place at Venturi. As you look at the racetrack, you can see it is very wide. These drivers are going to have a lot of opportunities to choose a racing line that works best for them. But right now, let's hear from one of those drivers, still very much in the championship picture, Nick Heidfeld, standing by with Nikki Shields.
Well, Nick, obviously big race this weekend, home race for you guys. But you're on a bit of a roll. Double podium in the last 2 races. How are you feeling coming into this one?
Very positive. I just hope expectations are not running too high, because in no motorsport and even less on Formula E, you can plan on what's going to happen. On the other side, I would be happy not to only fight for a podium, but hopefully for a victory soon as well. But there it's mainly about Buemi and Renault messing up.
And we're back here at Tempelhof. You know, you raced here in season 1, but on a very different track layout. What do you think of it?
It's always interesting. I like to go to new circuits, and even if we have been to this place before, it's a new layout. I've only done it on the simulator, and now we will go out in Shakedown, and it's going to be exciting.
All right, well, good luck. Have a great race. Thanks, Nick.
As a native German, Nick Heidfeld will be very much a crowd favorite this weekend, as will that young man, Daniel Abt, and his Germany-based Abt Schaeffler Audi Sport team. Now, you heard Nick Heidfeld talk about how he's going to need a little help to get back into the championship fight, but as you look at Lucas di Grassi, second, just 43 points behind Sebastian Buemi, it's worth noting there are 58 total points on offer at each of these double race weekends, Martin, including the 3 points for each of the 2 Julius Baer pole positions and 1 point for each of the Visa fast laps. Now let's hear from another title contender, Jean-Eric Vergne with Dario Franchitti.
Jeff, good to see you here in Berlin. Paris didn't go quite according to plan.
No, not really. I was a bit unfortunate. I was finishing second best first. I was, getting my attack on Seb, saving a lot of energy. But it's motorsport. Sometimes this kind of thing happens. It's unfortunate he was on the home race, but yeah, I have to take it in and move forward.
Now you have a new teammate with Stefan Sarazan. That must be a big benefit for you, for the team, to have such a fast, competitive and experienced teammate.
Yeah, it's really awesome for the team. I'm really happy, first of all, for him. He's a good friend before, and I'm sure he's going to be as fast as me, sometimes quicker, sometimes I will be quicker, but it's going to be a really homogeneous team between the two of us, and it will push the whole team forward quite a big step, I think.
I mean, the pace is obviously there. It's just one more step and the win's going to come.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too worried about that. We are a new team, but what happened in Paris was absolutely unfortunate. But we got the pace. We're always here. We just need, more chance to be with us a little bit.
It's a beautiful place. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thanks.
Now, Paris was bitterly disappointing for Jean-Eric Vergne, racing in front of his home fans. He fell out of the race, seemed quite emotional afterwards as he just strode to the back of the garage. He really didn't want to talk with anybody.
Well, and not just a Frenchman, but Jeff is a Parisian as well. So literally, 15 stops on the metro from Invalides. And he's right, they need a little bit of a rub of the green. You never win a championship by luck alone, but you sure can't win one without that, the occasional dice rolling in your favor. There's our points leader, Sébastien Bohemian. Still a question mark. He's got two really strong seasons going, all but unbeatable here in Formula E. So far has been unbeatable for Toyota, his other manufacturer, in the World Endurance Championship. He's going to Le Mans next week to race the 24 hours there. And based on the result there, positive or negative for that championship, will come the decision of whether he's going to miss some or all of the doubleheader New York races, which clash with another World Endurance race. So there's still a question mark there over what's happening with him in New York. Talking America, what about MS Amlin Andretti? Roger Griffiths is with Nikki Shields.
Roger Griffiths, obviously with the news that BMW will be joining the team next season, and we are in Germany. Have you got a lot of BMW representatives here this weekend?
Yeah, we haven't seen most of them yet. Obviously they're going to be showing up on Saturday, but I've already seen a few of them floating around. They're here to learn. It's what a lot of the partnership has been about this season and next season, and trying to understand how Formula E really works from the inside. We know that they've entered as a manufacturer for season 5 and they're working away on their power, and I'm sure it's going to be fabulous when it comes out. But there's more to Formula E than just what the car is. It's about understanding how the race weekend works, how the teams operate, the uniqueness of trying to do everything in one day. And so they're here to learn. They're integrated with us within the team, and then they, because it's their local race here in Berlin, they have the ability to bring more people that perhaps wouldn't be able to go to Monaco or to Marrakesh or New York City. So.
And this track as well, it's the longest that we've seen in the Formula E calendar before. Have the drivers got their work cut out to manage the energy as best they can to finish this race?
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly on Sunday. It's going to be no mean feat to get to the end on Sunday with anything left in the bank. So we'll get a taste of it tomorrow, but then we've got to go 2 more laps on Sunday. So that's going to be a challenge. It'll also be a bit of a challenge, I think, more so Sunday, because the ambient temperature is predicted to be a little bit hotter. So that's going to be making the battery temperature maintenance harder for us all. So that'll be good.
Well, thanks very much, Roger, and good luck for both days, Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, these cars are very, very critical on cooling. Martin earlier talked about the different configuration we see at Tempelhof this year, and there is one of the key new additions, that long 180-degree circle at turn 1, and this building through which the race cars will go.
Well, this takes me back to my childhood bedroom. What kid's slot car track didn't have a tunnel? I mean, this is fantastic. This is going through the Emotion Club, so VIP hospitality. And the car, you couldn't do this with internal combustion engines. You couldn't race through the middle of the hospitality unit without gassing everybody. I mean, what a fantastic innovation from BMW. Well, talking about full-term entries, we've heard the BMW view. We know Audi are coming soon as well. Dario caught up with Alan McNish.
Alan McNish, home race for Audi here, home race for Abt, home race for Daniel Abt. It's more pressure.
There's always pressure, Dario, you know, in a home race in that respect. Daniel finished second in Berlin last year with Lucas in third, so it's been happy hunting ground. Here at Tempelhof, I think it'll be a wee bit of a different race though. The circuit, the conditions, the temperature's meant to be very hot, but obviously as a German team they want to go home with the big trophy and also drink a few beers afterwards.
Sounds good to me. What's the challenge of this double header this weekend?
I think it's quite a challenge. Saturday night's going to be busy because usually everybody's used to packing up and going home, but now they've got to prepare for Sunday and to go again. From the driver's perspective as well, you know, if they have a bad Saturday, forget it and get back into Sunday. And so in that respect, there's a lot to play for. There's 50 points to play for in terms of 2 race victories. And so from a championship perspective, it could be a key weekend, very much a key weekend. But I think it'll be a very intense weekend for everybody. And I think at the end of it, Sunday night, you know, we big intake of breath, but hopefully, like I say, a wee drink as well.
Now, Lucas had a bit of a tough race in Paris. With your experience, how do you sort of get him back on keel, get him pointed in the right direction as a driver?
I always thought the best thing after a bad race was to go home, forget about it and move straight into the next one. And when you get back into a car, yeah, you know, Dario, as much as I do, that that's really the key focus is on the next race. You can't change the past, you can only change the future. In that, it was a very bad weekend for us because obviously Lucas had the incident and then was out of the race, but also at the same time Daniel stopped when a fantastic recovery drive on the last lap inside of the checkered flag with a technical problem, which there's nothing we could do anything about. So for both of them, it's a case of reset and move on, and there's nowhere better than Berlin to do that.
Alan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dario. Now, is it me or is Lucas di Grassi limping just a little bit?
Yeah, he injured his leg playing football a few days ago. He is struggling to walk now. It shouldn't be. Remember, we had the knee issue with Felix Rosenquist. That shouldn't be a problem once he's in the car. I mean, these things are not as violent as a Formula One car because of the different kind of nature of the car. But still, anything that takes you away from 100%, it's not going to be great.
Now, once again, here's Nicky Shield with another driver, Nico Prost from Renault Edams.
Nico, when we were here in season 1, there was a lot of discussion, obviously, about how abrasive the track surface is. Looking at the temperature, we're standing now in boiling hot sunshine. What effect do you think that's going to have on the tyres for the race?
I mean, we never know, you know. Obviously, when we came here in season 1, was a big surprise for everyone. Nobody expected this to happen, I think. Now we know, but it's looking to be a lot warmer, and also the tires are a lot softer than season 1. So probably it could be actually a big issue, or at least it could play a major role in the race.
Well, thanks very much. Good luck.
Once again, the temperature. To put a number on it, it's 28 degrees Celsius, about 84 Fahrenheit. And if Roger Griffiths and Nico are correct that it's going to be hotter on Sunday when the race distance goes up from 44 laps on Saturday to 46, and marginal on power and cooling, it could be really interesting.
And Dario Franchitti, what about cloud cover? That's always an issue when the temperature raises because it stops the track temperature really getting too excessive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also more comfortable for us in pit lane, but yeah, it's definitely going to help. Anything you can do to lower that track temperature is going to bring some more life into the tyres. I mean, these Michelin tyres have been absolutely bulletproof in every Formula E race, but this is going to be a real test for them this weekend.
You see the drivers headed for their race cars. We're just a few seconds from the track going green. And we are green as Loic Duval completes his preparations. and no great rush into the pit lane. They have time.
Well, 30-minute session doesn't give you an awful lot of time to learn anything other than the layout of the track and what it looks like from knee height, because that's where the driver's eye line is. You can see, you know, the mechanics. In fact, knee height is maybe a little bit of an exaggeration slightly
absolutely.
lower than knee height. You know, you get a very different view, Dario, from a single-seat race car.
I think it also depends on the height of your knees. You know, Alan McNish, for instance, it's probably about, you know, head height for him. But
harsh.
Yeah, straight away in with the jabs there. And we see a couple of the Andretti cars going out, Robin French there. This session, though, is really going to be learning the layout of the track. You know, we talked about the height of the driver sitting there. A lot of these corners are blind because of that. It feels like you're driving down a tunnel the whole way, and you're just learning that rhythm, that flow as it goes on. Obviously, much reduced power in Shakedown there, but you can learn the bumps. You can again get into that rhythm, start to understand the track, and that's what they'll all be doing.
Want to be with us on Saturday and Sunday for each of the 2 races when they go through that BMW emotion tunnel, if you will. There's an extra surprise in store. I won't give it away.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing it, aren't we? Well, Robin French being very tentative, Dario. You know, it's kind of a voyage into the unknown. They've walked round, but driving round is a very different feeling.
Yeah, and normally we see Robin head out there and just be maximum attack straight away, but he might have tempered that just a little bit, just starting to understand the track as he comes down to turn 9. This, to me, looks like one of the real key overtaking opportunities in the 2 races this weekend.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, what you want is a long straight, as wide as possible, with as many different lines into a tight corner. Your classic German airfield layout from DTM in the 1980s. You know, you go to somewhere like Diepholz, and it's pick a line, any line, you know, and that's what promotes overtaking.
Yeah, it's pick a line on the straight, but if I remember Diepholz, it ended up going to one line at the apex of the corner, so you've got to be first to that apex.
But
so
you could come in from anywhere and then end up anywhere on the exit. So a wide exit always helps as well.
I think wide on the let's say on the straight part, but you've got to get to that inside first of all, especially as dusty as this track is as well. There's a lot of debris out there during the track walk this morning.
Interesting to talk to some of the drivers yesterday, specifically about race starting and what's in your head and so on. We're going to bring that in our shows during the weekend. Just always a little lightning. Yeah, massive wide straights, and that's got to help, hasn't it? You know.
Well, I think it helps overtaking. As you said, long straights with hairpins, but it's so wide there. But then look at turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's unbelievably narrow. And you know, yes, we're on an airfield here at Tempelhof, but it's a street course. The walls are there, they're waiting for you. Slight mistake, you're going to hear the crunch, and the mechanic's going to have a busy couple of hours or a busy night.
Yeah, might be some beer buying going on by the drivers if they do find themselves a little too intimately involved with the wall.
Robin French into the pit lane.
And of course, the same size structures for the pit garages that we've been using all the way through Formula E. And you know, you look at the 2 cars there, Bob, they're nicely set up, they're side by side. Don't forget, in the race, one of them, the driver's heading in fast into the garage and then jumping into the other one. And it was only, again, sitting there chatting yesterday, I suddenly looked at where they were laying down the tape to guide the driver in and thought, do you know what, that's actually not a given that's going to go well. You can lose time easily just misjudging your entry into the pit garage.
And the experienced drivers come in at a pretty good rate of knots into the garage, so they're limited in the number of mechanics that can be standing there, not only assisting with the car change, but just for the sake of safety to keep them out of the way of the incoming car.
Yeah, it's a very sort of key moment of the race, and it's quite dangerous too, as pit stops are. Any type of pit stops in the world, but they come hauling in there, like you say. They jump over, they swap cars, and it's that from sort of 10 kilometers an hour to 0 where you can make a bit more time up and you want to be a bit greedy, but then you can end up with that nice Andretti sign is there in those toolboxes, so you've got to be a little careful.
That's interesting. Watching Antonio Felix da Costa, his second car, you see the first one is nose in. The second one is sort of angled toward the pit lane. I wonder if they did that deliberately and will do so in the race.
Yeah, none of this stuff's done by chance, is it?
Yeah, that's for sure. Anything that happens by accident happens on the race course by accident. In the garage, OCD is your friend.
Absolutely.
Well, they're the Panasonic Jaguars doing the same thing with Mitch Evans.
Yeah. And again, he'll swing in around the nose of the car and then drive out around the tail of the car. So he's got to get the first race car in as deep as possible to give himself a clear exit.
Sebastian Buemi looks really stressed about things right now, doesn't he? He's just cruising around, walking. He hasn't even got in the car. He's full of confidence, and so he should be. He's absolutely lit up the championship this year in an unbelievably competitive series. You know, he's just dominated, and that is so impressive what he's done, I think.
Winner of 5 of the first 6 races this year. First driver to complete the sweep of Julius Baer pole position, leading every lap of the race and taking the Visa Fast Lap for maximum points. He has been the dominator.
And Dario, he's also won the first 2 races of the World Endurance Championship. When you've got that confidence, when things are rolling your way, does that actually make you quicker? Because everything feels automatic. You're not second guessing anything.
I think that's a good point, Martin. You're not second guessing it. You're letting it flow. Your mind's not saying, "Oh, hang on, should I be doing this? Should I?" You just drive almost on instinct. One part of your brain is just doing what you've been training to do since you were a small kid, and the other part is thinking about all the other computations and everything, and it just flows. And it's a really great feeling when it is going that way. And you have to enjoy those moments because it's a fickle sport and it doesn't last for long.
And everything becomes just, yeah, that's the obvious way to do that. You don't think about things. Yeah, big bump. Just pointing that. Saw that with Robin Frings as well. That's that one little depression there that is really unsettling the cars.
Yeah, through the turn 8 area. That was quite impressive. Obviously, being an airfield concrete surface, I'm sure you guys have talked about it, but there's the expansion joints between them. So as the drivers go along, the beginning sort of as they go across that, and these concrete blocks can be at slightly different heights, as we've seen. And you've seen what happens with, and the engineers are there looking at dampers, trying to figure out how they're going to fix the problem. And yeah, it's part of the science of these cars. Finding grip, and the dampers play such a big part in that.
Especially if you're steering, braking, whatever. Questions on brake bias?
Just a little shot there of Stefan Sarazan. Dario, interested to get your view. You know, mid-season change of ship. Essentially, the car's predominantly the same. It's not like you're going from a Ferrari to a McLaren or something like that. But different drivetrain, different characteristics, different way that you've got to then learn to manage the energy, the heat rejection, all of that stuff. How much of an added layer of difficulty is that going to add to Stefan Sarazan's weekend?
I don't think it will at all. He's been on the simulator. He's learned a lot of stuff like that already. If I was in his shoes, it's a drive I would have taken. You know, he's got that lovely Renault drivetrain there, and it's a great team. They've got all the potential in the world. A good teammate too. He's really going to push Jev along, and Jev's going to push him. It's a win-win for all concerned. I wouldn't be surprised if they start winning races very soon.
Riding with Nick Heidfeld, and I'm frankly surprised watching that front suspension and his steering input. That looks like a pretty smooth ride.
It does so far, doesn't it? I was talking there about concrete and all this nonsense. There's the heads-up display, 110 kilowatts, so much reduced from what we'll see in practice or a race. Never mind qualifying. This corner fascinates me. This turn 1 goes on and on and on and on, and there you go.
And tightens and tightens and tightens.
Narrows, yeah.
And what's the one thing that radial tyres hate? More and more and more and more steering load.
Well, you get to a point as well where you've gone past the friction of the tyre. You've gone past the slip angle, and it doesn't matter about adding lock anymore. The thing that the guys are all talking about is going into that corner with a car with heavy downforce. You can barrel in there, carry loads of speed, and use that to sort of control the grip. These cars don't have a lot of downforce by the regulations, so you've got to really be careful how you go into that corner. And if you're trying to sort of save a bit of energy during the race, you can lose a lot of time there, or gain a lot of time too.
And of course, as the speed bleeds off, as you turn, you need to turn tighter. You've got less aero effect and less aero effect as well.
Yeah, but I don't think these have even got any aero effect. That's the thing. Yeah. We've seen them go so fast with rear wings hanging off and stuff. And that's, to me, that's one of the big plus points of Formula E. It's not an aerodynamic championship. Yeah, it's about powertrains, and it's about the teams and the drivers, and it puts on fantastic racing, I think, because of that.
As a racing driver, Dario, how would you approach a circuit that you hadn't driven before? Granted, the series was here 2 years ago, but it is a reconfigured circuit. Mario Andretti, for one, told me he would just take it one corner at a time. Get that one down, then work on the next one and do successive
I suppose the flippant answer is carefully, isn't it?
Yeah.
You start off very, very carefully, but I was always one for getting into a rhythm. I wanted to get in a rhythm with the track, so I would walk it, and I would walk it again. And especially with the downtown tracks in America or Canada, I would spend so much time just looking at the bumps. And I always looked at it as more of a sort of a three-dimensional puzzle, as just, you know, braking, turning. It was all how the bumps affected it, how the surface changes affected it. And then when it was time to get in the car, I felt I knew what was coming because you commit to these corners, and as soon as you commit, the rest of it's blind. So you better know what's on the other side of that wall. It's one of the skills of street racing. Some of these guys are very, very good at it. This boy in particular, Felix Rosenquist, absolutely, I believe, star of the future. Well, he's already a star, but I believe the sky is the limit for this boy.
He'll get his first taste of the 24 Hours of Le Mans next weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be entertaining for him, isn't it? You know, he was there last week in the test weekend, so he's had the eye-opener. He's done the rookie laps. He's, you know, done the simulator session, all the other stuff you have to do to build up to it these days. But, yeah, that's a whole different thing. Now, what about the Abt Schaeffler team? You know, home race in Germany, the only race weekend in Germany for the Abt team and for Audi. And talked to him a little earlier, saying, you know, does that bring extra pressure? No. If being in a specific place brings pressure, you're not putting enough pressure on yourself to start with. Darrow, would you say that's a fair comment?
Yeah, I was talking to Nick Heidfeld during the track walk, and I said that very thing, and he laughed. And it was sort of, I guess, two old warriors looking at each other and saying, look, by this point, if being at your home race adds extra pressure, you're in the wrong business. Quite right. Your performance should be the same regardless of where you're racing, and whether that's, you know, putting more pressure or less pressure, it should be the same the whole time. You want to win regardless of where you are.
Oliver Turvey, the star of qualifying the Mexico round. Sadly, the car let him down in the race. He was bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, doing a little chat with him yesterday, I said, okay, season so far, best bit, worst bit. That was exactly what he came up with. Yeah, best bit, pole position, worst bit, car failing under me. Yeah, normally drivers have no trouble in spotting what the worst part of their season was. Then you ask them for a highlight and they go, oh, okay, it's always a bit more of a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, drivers tend to focus on the negative because it comes from, you look at this car and you don't want to go into the engineer and say, oh, it's doing this really, really well, it's doing that really, really well, it's great. You want to focus on what's wrong with it to make it faster. And unfortunately, that kind of sometimes bleeds into your personality too. I know it certainly did with mine. And another good example of that, I think, is Sam Bird. He's definitely a glass half empty guy at times. And I joke and give him a hard time about it.
And again, you know, we talked about this, that motor racing is largely disappointment with the occasional bit of jubilation thrown in, but don't get too used to the smell of champagne because it's often not going to be in your overall. So there is that aspect to it as well.
We're seeing John Eric Verne there. Just realised that the Techita guys were lovely. They put the national flags of the drivers on the roll hoop, but now they've got two French flags.
That was good. I spotted that yesterday. That was good so far when we had Chinese and Mexican and so on, but yeah.
Did you see what John Eric did there? He carried a load of speed in and just four-wheel drifted the car through the middle of the corner. Again, yeah, down on power, but just finding the limits there to see for tomorrow. Okay, just his memory bank, information for the engineers. Every lap they do, they're learning here.
Yeah, and this is all trying things out when it, quote, doesn't matter so much.
Yes, absolutely, but you can't make a mistake either. You don't want to be, especially not in Shakedown. And
again, you know, because the walls are all still there.
Oh, yeah.
They're just as close as they are going to be during qualifying, during the races, so yeah.
Yeah, and you definitely always lose the battle with the wall. Ask Antonio Felix da Costa about that from Paris. He got fed into it, and he lost that battle.
Darry, you mentioned earlier the two French flags now in the Techita cars. It's worth noting that the Formula E officials have asked the teams to accentuate the distinguishing characteristics of the car. You'll notice VER for Jean-Eric Verne. There's Nelson Piquet, PIQ, right there on the roll hoop. Bigger numbers and drivers' names.
Things that as a driver you really didn't care about, but as a commentator, trust me, I think it's brilliant. Yeah. It's fantastic. Just look at the wheels there for a second. One of the things that is free to change in Formula E, the wheels are a certain size, so the dimensions are fixed, but you can have different designs, and a lot of the teams they want aero parts put on the wheels, they want to cool the brakes, they want to heat up the brakes, so you'll see some really, really cool wheel designs there, and I noticed that when I was in the Abt garage, they had some new ones.
Yeah, now this is the first time we've seen that, I think, at Next EV, where they've started to go for a little bit of an aerodynamic fairing around the wheel rim, and that Abt introduced, didn't they? 2 races ago, we saw those first time in Monaco. So, yeah, I mean, we're starting now down the road. I mean, teams are already testing cars for next season, for season 4, and are looking forward to season 5, when we get a much bigger step change in freeing up the regulations in all sorts of areas. So now all the clever guys with the laptops are sitting there working out what they're going to look at, what areas are ripe for development.
Just pushing the boundaries,
yeah.
Absolutely pushing the boundaries, and it's then it's up to the driver to get in the best mousetrap they give him, and then push the boundaries some more. It's part of the why this is such a sort of technical, complex sport, and like one of the reasons that we all love it, really so much.
Don't reinvent the wheel, but they're doing an awful lot of fine polishing here, because this is a very different kind of development curve to any other form of motorsport. Now, I was just talking to the manufacturer guys today, and EVs are now in the early part of last century where internal combustion engines were. But we've got so much computing power they didn't have in the 1900s that is just going to send these things into the stratosphere in terms of speed of development.
Absolutely, and in the 60s it was very much with racing cars, the race car of today, road car of tomorrow. But as you say, that the pace of development, if they just let the manufacturers run free, it would be out of control very, very quickly. And Formula E have worked hard to control the costs. That is a real... it's a balancing act, because the manufacturers think they're pushing one way, Formula E is pushing the other to try and keep things, because it benefits nobody when this gets out of control. We've seen that with other formulas.
But at the same time, provide that platform for the development of the new technologies, sport leading the development of the science.
Absolutely, Bob, absolutely. But it has got to be, there's got to be a very strict rule book in there.
Right.
Because engineers, I guess, they're their own worst enemies, really. It's like drivers, you have to protect them from themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't need to turn into an engineering formula. So look here at Nick Heidfeld in the Mahindra.
Bit of oversteer.
Again, talking to Dilbag Singh earlier, Mahindra now 20 years down the EV route as a manufacturer. So, you know, and again, I was saying to him, look, you know, the Indian subcontinent, there's that vast population, almost none of whom have cars. Motorized vehicles tend to be a scooter. I said, are we now going to have a step where internal combustion engines are pretty much bypassed by the time most people in the subcontinent are buying a car? Is that going to be an electric vehicle? He said, in the same way that most houses never had and don't have a fixed line telephone as we're used to, they went straight to the digital platform. Yes, that's the way it's going to go. I mean, that's, you know, Bob, for guys of our age, Dario's age, never to have driven. Anybody who's got a license now has started their driving career with an internal combustion engine, and the next generation will not. Chances are.
Yeah, the market will decide not just with their wallets, but with what they're looking for in terms of efficiency and convenience and performance and safety and so forth. And as you point out, the cell phone has been there forever as far as a certain generation is concerned.
Well, for some generations and for entire populations, it's the only telephone they've ever known. And another point he brought out, and I thought, that's just so obvious, and yet it never occurred to me. All these kids with their phones are used to battery management.
I'm clearly not.
Oh, hello. I know, but we're not.
No, we're not.
We're not born digital, as he said, you know. But kids, you know, our kids are the next generation, the generation after that, will be already pre-programmed to deal with battery life over a period in a way that we're not used to, and so they'll be even more suited to this way of transport.
Just watching Tom Dillman getting up to speed there in his he's at the very early days of his Formula E career. Everybody else in the field has a fair amount of experience now, and he's playing catch-up because he's been on the simulator, he's done all that stuff, but there's nothing like that experience of being in the car, being in the race, being in different conditions, and you know, learning all the tricks of the trade in what it takes to be competitive and win in Formula E.
And Bob, even this season's newbies have got half a season more experience than he does, so he really is in at the deep end, but what a chance.
I called some of his races in what is now F2.
Yeah.
And he is a very talented young driver. He's very good. I don't think he'll have much of a problem. Even though these cars are so different from what he might be used to with an internal combustion engine in the back.
Yeah, I think the speed over one lap is not the issue, is it? It's during the race, and we saw that for the first couple of races really with Felix Rosenqvist, and he picked it up exceptionally quickly. I think Tom will be just fine.
Well, again, born digital. You know, they were born into the simulator era where they spend a lot of their time working with this stuff.
Coming turn 6, is that a bit of a lock up? The problem is, as you turn right, the right-hand side is the unloaded tyre, so it locks, but then it's going to be the outside tyre, which is the one you don't want locked as you turn it. Look at him flinging that around.
That is a rough surface out there. You can't do that too much, I would think. Without
what are you worried about,
you
Bob?
cock your eyebrow at me. All right.
What are you worried about there?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see what the long race duration does with regards to the tyre and possibly Sunday's high track temperature as well.
And 2 laps longer. Whose idea was that?
I like the script writers here.
Well,
you know, they've got a little Machiavellian mischievousness in them. Yeah.
That's a sick sense of humour right there.
Yeah.
Hey, if it was easy, everybody would be Lucas di Grassi.
That's right. He's got a rebound this week. Paris was. I was watching Paris from the truck in Indianapolis, and his move there, he just.
I thought you said you were busy in Indy.
Well, I was, but we had a bit of a quiet day, so.
He was busy watching us.
Yeah, you guys did a couple of great jobs there. He just made a mistake, didn't he? He got to that point of there is a point when the reason goes out, and I've done it, trust me, I've done it, where your reason goes out and you make a foolish move. In my opinion, he made a move there, and he tried to intimidate Antonio Felix da Costa, and we saw the result. Yeah. And he'll have to get over that and get on with it, because he really is if he wants to challenge Sebastian Buemi, he's got to get on with it.
And
now.
And is in trying to force the issue, that's the reverse of what we were talking about with Buemi, where everything is just flowing and the holes in traffic open up for him and nothing's too much of a problem.
Yeah, and go to season 1 when Buemi was leading in, I think it was Argentina, he clipped the wall, and we just kept saying, Buemi in the season 2 qualifying, okay, how's Buemi going to mess it up today? And he's a different driver now. He's learned so much through his WEC stuff and his Formula E career. He's a different driver, and he's a different person than he was 3 years ago. His rate of learning has been really exceptional. I always thought he was quick, even watching him in Formula 3 quite a long time ago. I always thought that guy's good, but he was wild. He was totally wild. He's managed to tame that.
Well, they always say sport is between the ears, and perhaps this, more than any other, goes on in the cerebellum, and that's where he's winning at the moment. He's winning smart.
Right, because Nico Prost is no mug, and he's just doing a fantastic job. Where you compare them and the performance that he's extracting from the Renault Edam's car compared to Nico, and Nico's done a good job. Sebastian has done an absolutely exceptional one.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Nico Prost has very gracefully handled this situation where the guy on the outside of the garage with the same equipment has had this monster season. And Nico's had his issues, still looking for his first podium this year. He's been there or thereabouts, and that's why Renault Edams is running away with the team's championship right now, because they're getting so many points from both cars.
Absolutely. Adam Carroll, this guy has got all the talent in the world. He's still trying to figure out some of the nuances of Formula E, but when he does look out, and obviously the Jaguar team continue to improve week in, week out, but this guy, I hope he gets more of a chance to show what he can do in the following seasons. He watched what he used to do in the old GP2. He's driven most things in the world now. He tested Indy cars. He's got all that talent, all the mental acumen, everything that he needs to do the job.
And what you're saying about Jaguar is exactly right. You know, everybody else in the field has been here since season 1, and they are newbies, new kids on the block. They're half a season into their Formula E learning campaign, so they had to develop this year's car from a start-up with no additional information, no background to dig it out from. And James Barclay and the rest of the Jaguar team are very, very committed. Again, really enlightening chat with him earlier about exactly why Jaguar involved. They spent 3 or 4 years looking for the right championship series to bring Jaguar back into racing after more than a decade away, and they came here because it's reflecting where they see the marketplace, the engineering development going for part of Jaguar. And of course, if you go to buy a Jaguar, you've got certain expectations of their car, and they're trying to use the motorsport aspect of EVs to give consumers the confidence that an electric-powered Jaguar is still going to be, first and foremost, a Jaguar.
Yeah, and they branded the airports, the towns. You know, when you went to China for the, I'm sorry, when you went to Hong Kong for the first race this year, you walked in the airport. Oh, Jaguar are here then, and it was fantastic. It was just, and then you go into the airport and there's all the courtesy cars, the Jaguar courtesy cars, and it's, yeah, they've done it absolutely right as they do everything. You've got a slippery surface flag at 10.4. We know it's not oil out of the engine or the motor. I wonder what that is. It could also be maybe some debris on track.
Might just be a bit of dust. I mean, I'm not quite sure.
The final corner.
Here comes Sam going in to turn 9 right now. So he's getting there.
See if we can spot it.
It's still there, unless it's a test.
We haven't had our safety car test yet.
I don't see anything. This is a really cool camera.
Oh boy. We need a little more juice for that cable cam.
Yeah.
Cars are outrunning it badly.
Unsurprisingly, he needs more of a head start, doesn't he?
Sam looks like he's got a fair bit of understeer set up in his DS Virgin car there as he comes into turn 3 through the tunnel. How cool is that? I know. That's just not going to get old. I wonder if I can watch the race from there. Maybe we could do that.
I think we should all go there to call the race.
We could call the race from there, and everybody would still hear us.
Exactly, and then we could have a nice glass of champagne and more entertaining. And there's Adam Carroll out of the car in the Jaguar pits.
And most of them will have run both cars. There's no good reason why they wouldn't make sure that all that. This is a systems check for everything, the data logging, the cars, the drivers.
Sebastian does not look happy.
The grumpyology face on. I'm not quite sure about that.
Ow. You've seen that face sometimes. That's the speaking racing driver there, isn't he? Yeah, Felix Rosenquist. He's one of those guys doesn't like to show you what's going on inside. You don't know if when he's having a bad day or a good day. I like that.
Nelson Piquet Jr., season 1 champion.
And with Nelson, he's a very emotional driver, and you also see, you know, what you see is what you get, and he wouldn't be a very good poker player, I'm thinking.
Jose Maria Lopez the same. He told me once, he said, do you know, there are some days I think I'm still far too Latin. I just feel it happening to me when the emotion starts to rise to the surface. And Piquet coming into the pit lane just for a moment there, maybe slippery. Well, we've had the track sweepers out this morning, but looks like there's still quite a lot of dust being kicked up. Nelson now practicing a race pit stop. And it's still part of it, Bob. They have a minimum time that the car has to spend at rest in the pits to make sure it's safe. But the quicker you get in, get yourself belted up and get your head switched back into gear in your next car, the better it is. And then you can be released, and there's no question that everything is in place.
What's our release time this weekend, the minimum pit stop time? I haven't
That's a good
checked
question.
that out yet.
I did actually notice when I was in Mahindra, they've got a little clock on a stick that comes down from the gantry, so there's a digital display counting down in front of the driver. So even if somebody waves him away, if it hasn't got to 0.0, he's not to move. And I think that's, you know, belt and braces, there's always a good reason for that in a pit stop. Coming in a little hot. You know, I'd half caught that, and I thought, oh, is that me? No, that was it. It's still dusty.
He got to the Tech Pro barrier, but it doesn't look like he moved it. So
no, I guess he didn't touch it, but
no harm, no foul.
Nope, just a little eye-widening moment there. And again, another mental note. Okay, right. They did have the sweepers come through the pit road as well, so it came into that pit entry road, but hot tyres will pick up a lot more dirt than a road sweeper will.
Checkers on the session. The shakedown is complete for the double race weekend here at the Berlin ePrix.
Well, now this cues up a long session of debriefing, going through the data, what we expected to find, what we have found. Correlation is king here, isn't it? You know, what the feeling on the track has been from the driver compared to what they expected, where we're going to go next. This is step one of heading into 2 days of really frantic mental energy. Physically, the drivers will be able to cope with this. I mean, that's why they spend their entire life training their bodies. But by the time they head to bed on Sunday night, they will be mentally fried because there is so much going on. And the computing power of the driver is going to be really under pressure in these double race weekends.
Loc Duval talking it over.
A good francophone combination there as well. Loic Duval on the right-hand side, his French-Belgian teammate Jérôme D'Ambrosio. So he's a Walloon. That's the French-speaking part of Belgium. So again, a very French-speaking operation there. And they've got such a good relationship, those two guys. You know, they just bounce off each other like a... There's no straight man in that comedy double act.
Yeah, well, on the track, they've bounced off each other a couple of times too. But to your point, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Racing hard between teammates. So good on them.
Yeah. Well, that's just one of the factors of life. The person you are most likely to be close to on the racetrack is the guy in the same car. And even though they're all, quote, the same car, they're the same basic chassis, they have the same battery setup, the powertrain and the way you deliver the power, those are all varying. And so the chances are, yes, if you're going to be bouncing off somebody in turn one or you know, on the final lap, it's as likely to be your teammate as anybody else. It's more likely to be your teammate than anybody else. So it's important to have that good relationship. And that's going to be a test of the friendship between Jean-Eric Verne and Stéphane Sarrazin. Particularly if Sarrazin starts going quicker than Jeb. Jeb's got very close to being on the podium, very close to being in a race-winning situation. But if suddenly Sarrazin bounces in and the cards fall in his direction, then, okay, then the dynamics, you know, that's when you find out how deep the friendship runs. So it's going to be very entertaining.
Have you ever seen a racetrack that looked like that?
Not outside of a games box, no.
It is spectacular.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. Very, very cool. Can't wait for people to see it. And I can't wait also for the VIP guests. I mean, Jaguar, for instance, they've got 500 VIPs here this weekend.
Be sure to be with us for first practice tomorrow at 8 a.m. Central European Time. Once again, here are the Drivers' Championship standings. 43-point gap from Buemi to di Grassi. And another 31 points, di Grassi to Prost. But look how close the gaps are further down. In fact, Jean-Eric Verne and Felix Rosenqvist in a tie.
Tied on points, and it is very, very close. You know, somebody has a good weekend, it's going to be snakes and ladders. They'll jump up half a dozen positions, maybe 7 or 8 positions. Similarly, if you have a Jean-Eric Verne Paris nightmare, then whew, you're straight back down, and so it's very volatile. And at the top, as you said, okay, it looks like Buemi's got it all under control. He's got, you know, 40 points, but he hasn't even got a race weekend step ahead.
Right.
So there's absolutely no chance anybody's taking anything for granted at this stage. Jose Maria Lopez with the DS Virgin crew. Another man who's got a big single-seater background, most recently 3-time world championship in touring cars with Citroën, the parent company of DS. DS, originally a brand of Citroën, now spun off as its own brand. But yeah, he's back to single-seaters and a little while longer than he expected to get back into it.
Here's a look at a few of the highlights of this shakedown. So the Prost family. The DS version cars.
Yeah, Tom Dillman
talking it over.
So relaxed he is, really looking forward to this.
Robin Fringe first on track for the Anlin Andretti team.
But some of those color schemes, the driver name thing really works well.
Whoa. D'Ambrosio.
He was neither fish nor fowl in that turn, was he? He was really betwixt and between. So everybody's had their chance to run both cars on this track. Now they've got some indication of where they might be going.
Love these cars in slow motion. They'll be traveling a lot faster throughout the rest of the weekend. Right now we're going to hand things down to the pit lane for a casual pit walk with Nicky Shields and Dario Franchitti. Take it away, gang.
Shame. Well, Dario, what did you think of that shakedown session?
I thought some of the guys were getting after it. I expected it to be nice and calm. Nobody went straight out. And then, yeah, they were sort of, you can see they were trying to discover the line of, especially that turn one, which seems to go on and on. But it's fun to see them go through the tunnel, which I reckon is a place to watch the race.
It looks like a pretty cool spot to watch it, but it's good to be back here at Tempelhof, because obviously we were here in season one, we were down in Karl Marx Alley last year, and now we're back. But the circuit is quite different, the layout. What do you make of the new layout?
I wasn't here for the old one. I was over in Indianapolis when you guys were here before, but this.
But you obviously watched that race.
Yeah, I did.
Good.
I absolutely did, and I think this is such a better layout. This is a proper street course. The walls are there. It's a great track for testing the driver's skill, but also overtaking. So it's got it all, and they're really. I'm not sure the first iteration was anywhere near as good as this one.
No, they thought. Well, all the drivers seem to be smiling anyway as they're getting out of their cars. Now, someone who we've got alongside us in the pit lane today is a new guest, the race director, Scott Elkin. Scott, will you come and join us? Scott, how are you?
Hi, how are
Come in the middle there, Scott.
How are you doing today? And tell us about your role as race director.
I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that causes all the problems. Actually, I'm not. It's the stewards that are the bad guys, but whenever somebody does something wrong, I tell the stewards and then they make a decision.
And we've got Tim Schenken this weekend as steward. Tim doesn't take any, what's the polite way to put this? He's very strict.
What was your relationship like with race directors and stewards, Dario?
Well, before we came on camera here, I said to Scott, did you ever give me a penalty? But no, they've got a very tough job to do, and he does a great job because every one of these guys is out there trying to push the rules, and Scott's enforcing them.
But we're going to have a nice, clean, straightforward race on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. The track is actually very easy. There's not a lot of chicanes. There's not a lot of places where we have to make calls. So it should be, knock on something, it should be quite easy.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the race. Scott, thanks for joining us. See you. Right, now, as we are standing outside the Renault garage, hopefully we can have, in fact, I can spy him. Sebastian, come and join us. Sebastian Buemi, who is obviously, well, kind of dominating this championship a little bit too much for our liking. How are you, Seb?
Very good, you?
Yes, very good, thank you. Now tell us, 5 out of 6 wins. I mean, you're pretty much unbeatable. Can someone beat you this weekend?
Of course, every weekend. I mean, we try to work hard. This weekend is a special one with the concrete. Already now going on after the shakedown, you feel it's completely different to a normal racetrack. The grip, it's really hard on the tire, so you need to try to find the right compromise to set it up. And 2 years ago we were not very good, so hopefully this year we will be better.
I'm chuckling here because typical driver, he's dominating the championship, doing a fabulous job, and he's saying, yeah, it's tough here, it's tough there. We always look for the negative, but you've done such a great job this season. Both in WEC and here in Formula E. Is it just flowing? When you get in the car, you just feel at one with it? What's going on?
It's good momentum. I mean, I think it's just a matter of luck that both championships are going well, because you never know what kind of car you're going to get. But right now we have a very good car in both championships, so that definitely helps. And the fact that we have stability in the team. I've been working with the guys since 3 years, so you learn on your mistake, and I think that's the strength of the team, is basically the stability, which helps in those one-day events.
Mm-hmm. And you've just done a deal for another 2 years.
Exactly. I think that's the right decision for me. It works well with my WEC commitment and Formula E, so hopefully it will continue in the future, and we will not have any clashes, but we'll see.
And from what you just experienced during Shakedown, I mean, I know you only get the opportunity to do 3 laps in each car, so you can't really learn much about it. But in terms of the track surface and tyre degradation, how much of a problem do you think it's going to be this season?
It could be a big problem, because in season 1 it was a track that we had massive degradation, completely different to any other circuit. So we will have to adapt the setup of the car, and we might see people that are not particularly strong normally being very good here, and the good ones maybe at the back. That's what happened a little bit 2 years ago. Hopefully it will not happen here, but we need to work on that, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Seb, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
All the best for Saturday and Sunday. Double the action. It's going to be intense.
It's going to be intense, and the thing is, if you're not good in race 1, it's difficult to turn it around for race 2 because it's the same track. You get in the same rhythm with it. Your setup doesn't work on it. So to change and completely reinvent the wheel, both in terms of driver and car and team, between first race and second race, is really, really tough to do. And yeah, we saw some guys that just when they don't get it right,
We'll carry on into the following race, I suppose. You've got to have a good day on Saturday. Now I can spy Daniel Abs. Come and join us.
Daniel Abs.
How are you? My electric skateboard buddy. Exactly. Me and Daniel earlier in the week, we went to a Berlin skate park and hung out on electric skateboards. And well, Daniel wasn't as good as I thought you were going to be.
What? Did I see something else in you?
I think you're much better as a racing driver.
Did I not show you my picture of me on the skateboard?
Oh yeah, that is true. But that was a real skateboard, not an electric skateboard.
You're allowed to ride a skateboard?
I guess so, yeah. But I was very, very cautious. I have to say.
He was very, very slow.
When I was driving one by one, the contracts got longer and longer because I found different ways to hurt myself. Motorcycles, historic cars, skateboards.
I'm good so far.
But Daniel, how are you feeling coming into this weekend? It's obviously a massive, massive race for you, for the team. And you and Lucas did extremely well in Berlin last year with a double podium finish. Are you feeling in a good frame of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so good to be here. To have a home race, I think is special for any driver, and it just gets you more excited, more pumped up.
Well, great to hear from Daniel Abt there. We'll leave him to make the final preparations ahead of tomorrow. Apologies to anyone that suffered any technical issues just now. But Dario, final words before we head into racing on Saturday and Sunday. What can we expect?
I think you said it, Nikki. Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow, a typical Formula E race weekend. Everything's going to happen one day. A new track for everybody. Lots of passing opportunities, but a tricky, tricky track. Then, the race on Sunday is 2 laps longer. Everybody's going to be feeling a bit more confident. I would think we'll see a more aggressive race on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it.
They've definitely got their work cut out. Which team do you think is going to be the strongest?
Everybody's going to beat that man, haven't they? Sebastian Buemi.
As always. Well, do join us tomorrow as we kick off with practice quali and the race at 4 o'clock local time here in Berlin. And then, of course, we get to do it all over again on Sunday. We'll see you then.